Novetic's annual event, the 8th edition. I'm very pleased to welcome Alistair Clark. Hello, Alistair.
Hello.
Nice to have you on this, around this table. You're Managing Director of Environment and Sustainability of EBRD, the European Bank, of course. So my first question is regarding these climate change issues. How do you manage EBRD to finance projects and taking into account these climate change issues?
Well, we've been looking at climate change issues almost since we were founded. One of the reasons is...
In the 80s, huh?
In the 90s.
90s.
One of the reasons is because we operate in countries of the former Soviet Union and Central and Eastern Europe. And they are the most inefficient countries in the world regarding energy efficiency. So we've always had a desire to work very much in the energy efficiency space. So since 1996, we've had a dedicated team working on energy efficiency projects. That has now become the Energy Efficiency and Climate Change team. And they did quite well up to about 2006. But the big change that we made was that we changed the incentive structure for the whole of the banking department so that every banking team is incentivized to develop climate change projects with their clients.
And does it work?
It absolutely does work. At the moment, it is about 35% of our annual business volume is directly in this space. So that's the sum of about, last year, 4.1 billion euros of investments. If you look at it over from 2006 to 2014, the amount of projects are 996 projects, and we've taken out 70 million tons of carbon per year, which is the equivalent of the country of Romania, just by those investments.
So that's quite big, yes. You were mentioning the differences between the East and the West.
Yes.
Would you say the gap is closing, and would you say that your guidelines are quite different from one country to another?
Well, it's our job to try and make that gap close, but unfortunately there's plenty of room for us to invest in future projects. Until those countries have proper energy policies where they're paying the full cost of energy, then they're going to be very inefficient in their use of energy. And so they are adding to the carbon burden into the atmosphere. As regards standards, our founding fathers, who are essentially the countries of Europe, the US, Japan, Canada, etc. We're a typical multilateral development bank. They made it a point of principle that we have one standard that we apply to all countries.
So the one for all?
Kazakhstan will be the same as Poland, which would be the same as the one in France.
Okay. And it means you do not make any distinction between OECD countries and the rest of the world?
We make no distinction at all, which makes it very challenging because we are attempting to apply European Union standards right across our region. And our region has now expanded beyond the former Soviet Union. Now we are looking at the countries of the Arab Spring. So we've gone, our definition of Europe is now quite flexible.
Because it's not obvious to consider that all countries should bear the same burden. It's not common sense. Most of them are saying, well, look, we're not at the same evolution period, so you should be more tolerant with us.
Well, I think we can be more tolerant in terms of the more assistance we can give them, but we maintain the same level of standards regardless of our countries of operation. So the same standards to the Pacific part of our region, to the Atlantic part of our region.
One last question maybe. Do you think that, and to which extent should the development banks put into action this strategy on climate change?
But they're actually at the forefront. I mean, the whole climate change issue is going to revolve around finance. It's going to revolve around the private sector. And the multilateral development banks have a huge role in leveraging the private sector because we'll go to areas of the world where the private sector feels uncomfortable. So partnering with us means that we can really make a big change. Just to give you some facts, 2014, the MDBs invested 28 billion euros in climate change issues. Most of that in climate change mitigation, but also a fair amount in climate change adaptation and resilience planning. So the MDBs as a group are together. They'll be meeting in Paris next week
for COP21,
for COP21,
yeah.
and they will make a joint announcement about their commitment to achieving the 2-degree target.
Can we get a flavor of this announcement?
Well, I think what they will be announcing is that they have a nice catchphrase, which is from billions to trillions.
Yeah,
so their commitment is basically to a ramp up from where they are now.
Very good. Thank you very much, Alistair.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.